Hi, in this video I'm going to talk to you about using options to then get a delayed completion to get an uplift in value of a property. So what exactly do I mean by that? Well, let me give you an example. There's a particular property I was very interested in buying, which was an old bed and breakfast property. And I could secure the property. It was a 9-bedroom or sleeps 9 HMO, which had the ability to extend further later on, and I could get the property for $132,000. And I knew the current rent roll on that property already had people in it. The rent roll was £32,000 per annum, which was phenomenal. The issue here was the property was not licensed, so it was being illegally used in this way, so it didn't have an HMO license in place. Now, I didn't want to, and secondly, to get it to being able to get a license, it needed to have about £30,000 spent on it. However, once that money was spent, this was grossly undervalued because it didn't have the license and because this works hadn't been done. The vendors didn't have the money to do the works. They were an elderly couple of sisters, actually, an elderly 2 sisters. They just didn't have the money to do that. They were taking the income in. The council were breathing down their neck because there was no license, and they just wanted to sell. They didn't want the hassle of all that work and everything else. But once this work was done, this property was going to be worth around £230,000. So there's a number of skills and strategies coming into play with this deal, but it's just to give you a feel for this type of strategy. So in this type of strategy, we've used the skill of identifying properties at discount, a skill of identifying where we can refurbish and add value. Okay? And the numbers don't have to be this big to make this strategy something to think about. Now, what I wanted here, I couldn't afford to take the property on tomorrow, because if I took the property into my name, the council would go, you have no license, the tenants all have to move out, I lose the income on the property. But I want to get licensed as soon as I can. So what I do is I use an option for a delayed completion. So I go to the sisters and I say, do you know what? I would like to buy your house for £132,000, but what I'll do is I will give you £5,000 today, and in this example, I'll give you that as an option fee. So if I don't go ahead and buy from you, you can keep it. But I also want to knock it off the price, because you can do that. You can change these options around. So I'll give you £5,000 today, but then I'm going to pay you a balance of £127. So you end up with your £132 that you're happy to take. I want in return, I asked for 6 months, we ended up agreeing at 4 months, delayed completion. So I'm going to give you £5,000, I'm going to take an option on your property for the next 4 months. And in the next 4 months, it means I take over the property, I take over the costs that you have, and this particular couple had about £1,500 a month of costs in terms of mortgages and other things, but I also get the rent roll coming in. Okay? And I take over the maintenance and management of the property as well. So they were travelling 80 miles to look after this property. I said, look, you can stop doing that. Just go chill out. One of them was ill. Just stop worrying about this. We will take responsibility. And on top of that, my commitment was I'm going to spend 30 grand and do it up. So if I spend 30 grand and do it up and don't end up buying it, you've had 5,000 out of me plus 30, and you've got your property back. You sell it to somebody else for a lot more than 132. They went, great. That sounds absolutely great. That's exactly what we need. Now, they've got some risks here. I could go in and start knocking walls down and then not end up completing, and I've trashed their property. So their solicitors were a bit twitchy about it for that reason. So we had to make sure we got really tight with the sisters. We explained what we were doing. We built their trust. So when the solicitor got twitchy, they said, look, let's just do it. We want to get this done. Let's just do it. So we signed the option agreement. We go in. We spend the £30,000. Now, if I then at that point go to complete, I've never owned this property. If I go to complete it for 132 purchase price in 4 months' time after I've refurbished it, and I say, but it's worth 230, can I borrow 75% of that? They're going to say to me, no, we're not willing to do that because it's the lower of the purchase price or the valuation. So we'll only lend you 75% of this, not of this. However, commercial lenders think with a more commercial mind. Commercial lenders being the high street banks, but the business arm of them. So I approached Lloyds with this particular example. I said, do you know what? It's going to be worth 230. Let's say I only want to borrow 70% of that. So I think the number was 161. Let's say it's 160 for this example. So I want to borrow £160,000 from you. Will you lend me £160,000 to complete the purchase of this property? Yes, we will. They get it valued. Now the risk for me here is I've got 4 months, I have to get it refurbished, then get it valued, then get the lender to agree to it, and then get completed. If I end up taking 4 months and a day, this has expired, I've lost all my money. So you want as long as possible on this strategy, and you want to be good at it. But if you are good at it, in this example, I ended up spending 162. I'd still not paid a couple of these invoices, so I'd spent less than 160. And I ended up being able to borrow the full 160 that covered my costs. And the rental profit I'd made, we had to move a few people out while we did the work around them, but the rental profit I made in the 4 months period actually paid for my solicitor's costs and my arrangement fees and things like that. I ended up, therefore, with a deal where the house is worth 230, mortgage of 160 on it, so I've got 70,000 of equity, and it rents at 32,000 per annum. In fact, by then the rents were up to 40,000 per annum, and the mortgage was just over 1,000 a month. I think it was 14.5k per annum for mortgage finance. Now it's an HMO. There's other costs. It was making me about £1,000 per month net profit. So for none of my own money, because I understood options, because I understood how to refurbish a property, because I understood how to put it to somebody, I ended up with £70,000 worth of equity and £1,000 a month of profit. This particular deal also had a really interesting opportunity to refurbish the ground floor of the B&B, which we did as the next stage, which is another 30 to 40,000 spend, and created another 4 rooms, but also created an uplift to, I think it was 320,000 of value. So we got all that out and some other money, and it put the income up significantly as well. So it now nets out a couple of thousand a month. That was an added value bonus. No one could sell this property. The estate agent couldn't sell it. No one was interested because they couldn't get the mortgage on it. Because I knew about options and could explain those to the agent was quite happy. It was only waiting 4 months to get paid. Could explain them to the vendor. It worked for me, it worked for them, it worked for the estate agent, and we got a great deal. So I've used that in that example, but where could you use that kind of strategy? That delayed completion. You want this option agreement as long as possible. That's a tight one. I wouldn't recommend that if it's your first one. You need it as long as possible because it can't expire and you end up losing the money here. You have to know you've got the outs to get the mortgage, the finance in place. We got this finance in place before we even signed here. So I knew I had the out. It had to be valued, but they'd check my paperwork. I knew they'd lend on it, provided I did all the things that I said I was going to do, and the valuation was okay. I really hope you found that interesting. Invest with knowledge, invest with confidence, create financial freedom. Thank you.